Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Raziel. This is the show where we get to talk about business, we get to talk about sports, and we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, you know exactly what to do. 5-star review on Spotify, like and subscribe on YouTube and over on Apple Podcasts. 5-star review and say something nice about me and my incredible guest today. I have Tarek Pertew. He is the co-founder of NYC Footy. Tarek, how you doing today, man?
Thanks for having me. Hell of an intro. I don't know how you remember all that. Good stuff. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is all mine. I remember it because I say it a lot. There
Yeah.
was one episode where I actually totally forgot, and it was like episode like 300, where I just completely forgot what I say. And I was like, "What the hell's going on?" Like
I
total
know.
like brain meltdown. But then I
Oh, I
remembered it
hate
and
it when that
everything.
happens. It happens so often. It's like, oh my God, my brain's just melting. Yeah.
It is what it is. We got
One
there, and
phone
that's
call
all that
goes wrong.
matters. Excited to talk about some soccer, some footy, some football here with you, man. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh,
We could talk about the Governor's Cup. We could talk about lots of people loving what you do and why you do it. But first question I have for everyone, Tarek, is why do you love sports so much?
I was never very cerebral about it until recently. It's such a natural. It's like when a baby hears music and it dances. I think sport goes hand in hand with music. It's just in humans to be competitive, to I don't know, be physical, to play games, whatever it might be. And sports, oh God, is it the most important thing?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's the most important thing. I mean, just soccer. You look at the World Cup. I mean, the World Cup, the stories of soccer, wars pausing for soccer. I mean, if a sport can do that, it's almost the most important thing. I don't know. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. And I feel so fortunate that my life has somehow meandered down a path where my whole life is sports. And that's a really lucky place to be. So, yeah. Why do I love sport? I don't know. I mean, the physical, to speak in modern day, sort of the zeitgeist of today, it's the mental and physical wellness that sport gives you is almost unmatched, really. And it's needed more now than definitely than ever in my life.
That's probably true on that one. Yeah, I'll agree with you there, man. And yeah, it's nuts, right? Like how grateful I am as well to be able to work in sports because I could pretty much do what I'm doing in any other industry.
Totally.
I just know I wouldn't like it nearly as much, right? The passion wouldn't be there, the care wouldn't be there. I mean, I still care about making money and doing my job, right? But like, yeah, I'm way more interested in what I do because sports is attached to it, right? I'd much rather talk about sports than consumer packaged goods. And like that's kind of what I deal in, right? In my day-to-day life, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. So I'm very grateful for it. And it sounds like
Love that.
you could do exactly what you're doing just in some other industry. It's just wouldn't be as cool. That's for sure.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. No, it definitely wouldn't. And it's interesting because I still play. I'm 42 now, and I still play. I don't know how much longer I can play. Soccer is a tough sport on certain parts of the body, and currently recovering from a torn meniscus now. But I hope that love to be very present in sports remains even when I got to hang my cleats up.
Get to coach
Hopefully.
your kids, man. That's easy.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
True.
that's
I
an
got
easy
two
one.
kids. The oldest one's not. She doesn't love sports as much as I do, but the younger one seems to have a real interest in it. So we'll
There
see.
you go. There you go. 1 out of 2. That's not too bad. That's not
Oh
too
no.
bad, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we talk about it a little bit. I guess it's kind of interesting, right? So you are the co-founder of NYC Footy. It is
Hmm.
the leading slash one of the largest adult soccer leagues in America.
Hmm.
New York City, yeah, they have a lot of largest stuff. It's pretty easy when there's what 10,
If you're
12
the
million
largest in New
people.
York, you're probably the largest in the country. I think that's,
Exactly. Yeah.
I like saying we're the largest in the country, but it's almost cheating because it's almost not necessarily by default. And I don't want to
Exactly.
suggest that, New York's the greatest at everything, but there's just so many people there, so
It's
much.
like the greatest city on earth for other reasons, of course. I love
Sure.
it. We don't need to get
I
into
mean,
that, but
we don't, but it is a tremendous town.
it's the best.
Yeah.
What I guess like what's because like there's probably other soccer leagues in New York, right? So
A
let's
lot.
not just because you're in New York doesn't mean you have to be the biggest. You clearly did something right to attract as many people as you did. But I guess like where how does this start? Was this simply just like you and some buddies? You're like, let's just get a couple people together, pick some teams, call it a rec soccer game, and we'll just go from there. Because I've heard those stories. I know a lot of people that just kind of, hey, let's meet up at the high school field. There's lights on, and we'll just play soccer. It's a
And then
really easy thing
eventually,
to
yeah, it
start with.
organizes into something bigger. I think a lot of leagues have started that way. I think a lot of leagues come out of meetup groups. They start as a meetup group like that. Hey, let's just go play pickup. I got a permit here. And then and then they sort of create greater organization out of it and make a league out of it. For us, it was definitely different. It's a story that we've told more frequently recently, as we've grown, because as we've grown, the number of individuals that pour into the league is a lot, and we put them on free agent teams. And free agent teams is hit or miss. You don't know if you're going to like the people or not. You don't know if you're going to jive well. You don't know if you're going to perform well. Well, the founders of NYC Footy met on a free agent team, and that's a really powerful story. I joined a buddy of mine from college said, "Do you want to join a soccer league with me?" I said, "Okay." I didn't know anyone else on the team. He knew one other person, so that's that little triangle. And then these little triangles formed on that team. So it was groups of people that kind of knew one or two other people, and then we had a team of maybe 12, something like that. And I hadn't played soccer since high school. I was an average soccer player. I was an elite thrower of the ball in, however you say that. There's not even a name for that position, like defender, attacker. There's no name for the person.
That's true, yeah.
But I was the best at that. But in high school, you could get subbed on and off every one. I was subbed on to throw in long ball and then come back off. So I wasn't a particularly great soccer player. But I came back, played one game, and was like in absolute heaven. And so we played as a team, and we stuck together. This free agent team ended up sticking together for a while. And we did some iterations of it, new people come through, and we were sort of in the lower divisions, and we worked our way to the upper divisions and started gelling and just started winning a lot and good vibes in our 20s. But I'd already started my first company then, so I had entrepreneur brain pretty aggressively. And when you have entrepreneur brain, you look at especially when you're younger. It's starting to change a little bit now as I get older. But when I was younger, you look at everything and how you can improve it. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like, oh my God, this curb could be 2 inches higher and it'd be better for everybody. It doesn't matter. You're looking at everything and thinking about how you can change it. And I just thought, there's got to be this league is, it just doesn't feel professional. You're wearing these thick Gildan t-shirts. The ball is like waterlogged. The website is extremely dated.
Straight from the 90s, I bet, dude.
From the 90s. And so I just felt there's an opportunity for us to have a professional experience at the rec level. But when I say for us, that was the whole purpose. Let's take this group of teams we've been playing with and against for 5 years in Lower East Side. Let's go get a permit, and then let's just encourage all of them to come over with us, and then we'll have real jerseys, and we'll have a nice website. We'll take great team photos, and we're going to track stats, and it's going to be everything I love about the ESPN website when I'm on there all the time looking at all the stats and everything. We're going to have that for the rec level. And it's going to be just for us. And that was 100% the vision. We never, ever, ever, not a single one of us had this in mind as a business, ever. One of the founders will remain unnamed because he would hate it if I called him out on it, wanted to close it up at one point. It was just like, why are we doing this? It's a headache. It's too much work. But we started this and we got a permit in Brooklyn, and none of the teams came because it was in Brooklyn versus Lower East Side. And they're like, no, not a chance, man. I'm going to stay right where we are. And so we had to cut some deals, and we got a deal with Brooklyn Magazine. They gave us like a full page spread, and we put them as a sponsor on the jersey. And we were spray painting little pigeons. That was our logo. In the city, we were putting stickers up, more than just a soccer league, NYC Footy, more than just a soccer league. And we crawled our way to maybe 5 or 6 teams in that first season. We were playing 7-a-side with regulation goals. So the score lines were like 10-9 and things like that.
Hell yeah.
But people loved it. And we took these great team photos. One of the partner, and everyone contributed something. The 3 of us all brought something different to the table. Like my idea was to start the league. Gerardo's idea was to name it NYC Footy. Someone else's idea, I don't know. Maybe the design was a rat. The original design was a rat on a soccer ball, and we changed it to a pigeon like a week later.
Yeah.
Rat didn't really.
Rats in the sky. So what's the difference, right?
We said, let's do a rat with wings. That's what we said. And then the pigeon came. So everyone brings something different to the table. And G's buddy, great photographer, took these just incredible team photos that we'd be posting them on Facebook. Instagram wasn't really big at the time. And people were like, oh, that's like a cool league. I'll join. And it just started growing. And that was 2013. But it wasn't until 2018, I think. We didn't even break into Manhattan, I think, until 2018. Something
That's
crazy.
wild.
Yeah, it was tough to get permits, but we did. We were in Long Island City and Brooklyn, and we had a couple leagues, and it grew steadily. It's always growing steadily, and we all had full-time jobs. I had joining my technology company, and Gerardo's, the head of marketing at a small record label, and Joe is he owns this iconic hardware store in Williamsburg called Crest. And so we would just come together and figure out how to make this happen in a way that was semi-organized. And any extra cash we had, which wasn't really significant, we would throw parties with it and have a nice offline experience with everybody. And it was just a really good social club. Honestly, it began as like a fun soccer social club. We all played in the league. We all still play in the league. Now we're in our 40s. We started in our 20s. We're now in our 40s and still playing in it. And then it just, and there's more, I'm sure, to answer some of the questions that I'll let you ask here, but as to when the growth really started to hit, that it was like, we gotta do something. We gotta take this more seriously than we have been taking it.
We get to, right? Like that's such like a cool opportunity. And I think, right, like we're all at, right? As you're kind of describing your jobs where you were, as you said, you always kind of had entrepreneurial brain. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're also probably pretty good at networking, right? So you probably looked at this from that perspective. Your one buddy is the head of marketing. It never hurts to have parties, right? When you're really good at marketing, one cool thing to do is get people together and have a good time.
A good party, I'll tell you.
Hell yeah, man. Can't wait. And then, your other buddy who owns a hardware store, it's like, hey, can't hurt to let people know about the store, right? In Williamsburg, you probably had somewhere kind of close, Brooklyn, right? I'm not 100% on geography.
It was in Williamsburg. It was right smack. It is right smack on Metropolitan Avenue.
So like worst case, you guys kind of created like a networking club that you really wanted to go to, like essentially, right? When you kind of like take a step back from that perspective, like what you were all doing that was, quote unquote, a little more important at the time, understandably, right? That's paying your bills. Like this was something fun on the side that didn't seem like it was taking up too much money, taking up a little time, but like the good kind of taking up time, not the bad kind. So I think that's kind of cool. And then, your one buddy that wanted to shut it down, is it before or after growth really started to hit? Because I'll either ask it. Okay, so I can also understand why like wanting to shut this down, because like it sounded like, again, a good like taking up time, but at some point, right, you're starting to get like, all right, like I kind of just like don't want to do this every night. Like I kind of like on Tuesdays, like, I kind of want to sit down and watch a movie. Like I want to sit down and watch the game. Like I get that, but you guys were probably in such a way that it was difficult. Like, was there like a legitimate chance it was going to get shut down for a second there? Or was he just like, dude, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you're probably just like, shut up, dude. This is too much fun. Like let's just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I took it personally when he said it. It was early on, so there wasn't there's definitely no money. When he wanted to shut it down, there was no money coming at us. We never put up too much money. I mean, it always covered itself, but it was never much going around. It was 3 years before. We had been doing it for 3 full years before we actually paid ourselves $1. And our first check, we met at an old. We used to meet for breakfast every week at a place called the Coffee Shop in Union Square. It's not there anymore. It's a bank. It was once a bank. That bank got converted to a coffee shop, and now it's back to a Chase Bank or Citibank or something. We go there and meet for coffee, and I remember we had 2 other founders at the time, and there's a story there as well. And everybody got a $3,000 check or something that day, and we all took a photo. We couldn't believe it. 3 years into this project, and we got our first check, and that felt like a milestone. But it was probably a little before that when one of them said, "I think we should just shut this down." I don't really know why. I don't know. I don't even remember the context of the conversation that might have led to that. But 2 things happened there. One, I got offended. I don't know if I shared how offended I was at the time, but I think that's when I realized that maybe it was more important to me than everybody else. Maybe this thing is, and if that's the case, then I have to be the person that takes the reins, and that is ultimately what happened.
That's pretty cool. Well, let's see. So something good came out of it. Is that person still with us today?
Still with us.
Okay, so I whittled it down. We're not gonna say who it was, but you said 2 names, so like it's cool.
He's one of my best friends, and we talk about this stuff. And I think he never thought it was going to become this. He had a lot on his plate. And they did a lot during that period of time. Everybody was doing a lot to make this league happen, and I can see why someone's like, hey, this is my thing. This is the thing that keeps me alive. This thing is starting to take up a lot of time, not much of a reward. But no one wants to be the person that just leaves themselves. They want the whole thing down so that no one's there, or they'll reluctantly hang on. And he did. And we're still, very, very close friends. But, at the time, and I'm sure if he knew that it was going to become what it was, then he'd certainly never have let those words leave his mouth. But that is when I knew, maybe I love this thing more, or maybe I wanted this thing more
Mm-hmm.
than others did, and that did end up being the case. But that's, there's got to be 1,000 stories like this that, of 10,000 companies that start, there's got to be at least 1,000 in those 10 where it's a similar story. And then others, there's a period where I was kind of doing a lot by myself, but then, my co-founder Gerardo, there was a little bit of a break in the insanely demanding work schedule he had as marketing and this. Not only was he marketing for this record label, he was also managing some popular bands, and I mean, he just had no time. And so there was a few years where it was mostly me and it was somewhat manageable, but when things started to get unmanageable, that's when Gerardo really stepped in and it's like, all right, there's a fortunate event that gave Freedom up some time. And yeah, that dude really stepped in and took over a whole side of the business that let me focus on the other side. And then together we've been growing this thing fast and furiously since. And that, that was a special moment for the business, I think, when, not everybody sees it at the same time. I think I saw it the earliest for sure. And then others sort of saw what it could be a little bit later. And here we are.
And you have to let them see it in their terms, right? Like, it's like when you tell someone about this awesome band, it's like, they're not going to listen to it. You have to wait for them to discover the band themselves and be like, yo, dude, have you heard this band? It's like, yeah, asshole, I told you about this band 3 years ago, but I'm just grateful you got to this point
I'm
now,
glad
right?
I think that is really so much about anything. I mean, it can go from politics to education to healthcare. Just got to let people find things on their own terms. And it can be tricky when you're running a business because there can be resentment. Why am I doing all the work? Blah, blah, blah. But we had figured out a really good rhythm, and a rhythm that rewarded me the most at the time when I was doing the most work. And, but yeah, there was that kind of aha moment hit, and never looked back. And yeah, I'm grateful for it.
So why, I guess before we get to the ultimate point of like hockey stick growth, like why did you need it? Like why not just like keep the league where it was, like in a comfortable spot? You guys aren't doing too much work. You're having fun still. You can still do your regular jobs, take care of your family, do what you want to do. Like, why was there this need to grow when you could have simply just said like, no, we're at max capacity and this is as big as it's going to be? And like having a waiting list is never a bad thing, right? Like, what was the reasoning for wanting to say, no, let's just let this thing rip and see how far it can go?
I mean, I think that a lot of that is just innate in my personality. It's a little bit of a relentless personality, and what's next, don't stop. That, but also coupled with, if anybody ever emailed and we couldn't accommodate them, I would do anything to accommodate them. Anything. Figure it out. Jam them into a league. Get a new permit. Get it. Don't turn people away that want to play. I was manic about that. I'm actually totally manic about customer service. I 100% set up a customer service cadence that I want to receive as a customer from all of the businesses that I use. I want businesses to be transparent with me. I want them to, not turn me away for stupid reasons. And so we pushed really hard there. So to accommodate everybody played a big role in growth because the demand was coming in. But a lot of it is just, what can we do next that's different? What can we do next that's interesting? What can we add to the mix? And that's just who I've always been. And that's, people that have not always been that way, but pull that off, I have a lot of respect for it because that's hard. It's like, how do you exercise that muscle in your brain to extract that out? But for me, it's very natural. It's like for anybody, it's just in me to, all of our tournaments, it was, we run the biggest tournament in New York. It became the biggest tournament in New York in year 2, and that stemmed from just one trip with my family to Governor's Island. And I was like, man, this is a beautiful patch of grass. We should play some soccer here one day. I'm like, okay, Tarek, yeah. Anybody want a pina colada? And they move off. And my whole brain is like, no, we're going to do this. And I'm picturing it, I'm envisioning it. This could be cool one day. You do it the first year. You sort of dabble in it the first year. And then you realize, oh, it can be. And then second year explodes. And then, by third year, it's max capacity, nothing else you can do there. And that's, and that's the way we think about everything. But that said, there's some people doing stuff in soccer that I'm like, damn, I wish I thought of that. Like this TST tournament going on in Raleigh. I mean, that thing, that's probably one of the biggest things to happen to soccer in in this country in a very long time. And I give a lot of credit to whoever hatched that idea and was able to bring that and execute that. I envy that a bit because I see myself as this visionary in creating things, but then you see someone actually completely do something different with the sport. And I'm just so impressed by that and inspired by it. It makes me want to do more and do more creative things.
Good artist copy, man. Good artist copy, great artist steal. There's nothing wrong with that. What the hell? What's the problem?
I know.
Take what you like, leave what you don't.
Yeah, makes
And
sense. Well, that's what
you
we've
can't
done.
do
That's what
everything
NYC
in
Footy
Raleigh
is.
and New York City. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's true. But that is NYC Footy is, I mean, it is a formula that we took from somebody else, and then we just made it better. We took the structure, the co-ed rec league, the pricing. We knew all that from playing in the league, and we took that effectively from someone. And then we said, we're going to have real jerseys. We're going to have real photos. And then we added a little bit, just like you said, And now people take ideas from us, and at first you're like, oh, F this guy for stealing it. And then you think, well, we've done that.
And we got it from somewhere, right? We're not the first people to ever think of this, right? So I
right.
think that's pretty cool. And so one thing that I talked to you for a second before we got on, right, is like, for me, the only leagues I was ever a part of was like beer leagues. Some of my friends are a part of like some bowling leagues, and they're organized is a word that you probably wouldn't use to describe these leagues, but you appreciate, of course, the incredible people that are running it, because we know they're not getting paid that much money to make
So
sure
much
that the
respect for
field
that.
is clean.
Absolutely.
So like, we appreciate it, but we also
Yeah.
understand it's like, it is what it is, I guess. Like, what is it about you guys that allowed you, like, what I understand, like you said, customer service, like, make sure I can accommodate anybody, but that's way easier said than done, right? Like, how did you achieve the growth to the point of becoming the largest, one more time, adult soccer league in America?
I mean, it was, well, first, we set out to have a professional experience at the rec level. That was, if I could really, someone said, what's your sweet sauce? It's professional experience at the rec level. Real jerseys, as I said, you got to wear them. You got to wear shin guards. If you go to a high school game, you're wearing your jersey, wearing your shin guards. You go to a college game, you're wearing your jersey, wearing your shin guards. Professionals are wearing a jersey, wearing your shin guards. If you're not wearing your jersey and you show up with a white T-shirt and no shin guards in an organized league, that's not an organized league. That's organized pickup. That's really the way I believe. And I want somebody who's just walking down the streets in New York and says, I'm going to go watch this soccer game. I want them hanging on the fence, looking at this game and thinking, damn, what league is this? This is legit.
They look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And even if they're watching a beginner game, like, imagine that. Imagine walking down the street and like, I'm going to go watch some soccer. And you show up and these people are in uniform. They're kitted out. There's a legit referee there. The whole thing is super legit, but they're beginners. They're like, they don't even know how to kick the ball. That's an interesting experience for a New Yorker, and that's part of how a lot of our growth happened, is made all of a sudden soccer was way more accessible to people when they saw, holy cow, I can join this. I don't have to be intimidated by showing up and not really knowing how to play and what have you. So, but the growth happened. It was an interesting year because COVID hit, obviously, and it was, I don't know what my timeline is on this earth. But whatever it was before COVID, it's way less now, because we had just finished filling up our spring leagues in 2020, and it was our biggest season yet. And that was probably the season we had just probably become the biggest league in New York. We had a lot of teams. We had our sponsors coming out, like Cliff Bar and others coming out and doing this thing. I was like, this is great. And then the next week I had to fly to Europe for a wedding in Ireland, but while I parlayed it to watching a Liverpool versus Atletico Champions League game, which happened to be the very last game with fans before they killed all the fans. It was a weird game. Got COVID from there. Not a big surprise.
Worth it.
But then when it was at that point where I was wondering, oh God, please don't make us shut these leagues down. Please don't make us shut these leagues down. And then the news comes like, we're going to have to shut this league down. And I just can't tell you or your listeners how stressful that was for me. I didn't know what it meant for the business. We'd taken everybody's money. If I give everybody a refund right now, it would sink the business. I had to use so many new muscles in my brain to convince everybody to keep their money in the business and let us translate that into greater value when we're back online. And surely we'll be back online by Easter.
Yeah, it was only 2 weeks, I think.
Surely we'll be back online by summer. We'll just maybe lose spring. Oh my God, it was so stressful. And that was actually a period where it was just me. I didn't have my co-founders for support. And that was tough. That was just so tough. And, my wife was probably helping me through that period. But we did one thing during that period that I think was really important. And we were pretty much the only league that came back online in the fall of 2020. And we had to use the only places that would even allow soccer because all the parks were closed. One park opened and we didn't have permits. So I had to parlay someone else's permit and use it. And we had just a small amount of teams. But that must have sent some really important signal that, we meant business. Like I wanted people out there playing. I didn't want people locked up in their house. And so we were back online in fall. We might have had like 40 teams playing then.
Oh, that's still pretty.
Down
How many people a team?
Maybe on average 13, something like that.
There you go, 500 people maybe almost.
Maybe 750 people back playing, which wasn't bad. But that spring we were at 116 teams, I think, at the time, and it was huge for us. It was like, wow, we have 116 teams, one season, lots of players. This is big news for us. So 40 was a big step down, but it was okay. And most of those teams were using credits from the spring, which was fine. We just wanted them to use them. And and people wearing masks, we were spray painting, we were spraying the ball at halftime, no throw-ins. It was weird.
Love it.
And and then that fall we held our Footy Fest tournament. People wore masks, and I did that tournament. I had to do that one by myself also, but that was fun. It was like, okay, people are outside, we're doing things. But my fear was that the business wasn't going to work its way back for a long time. I told the partners it's going to be about 2 years, I think, before we get back up to about 115 teams. I think a lot of people are going to leave this sport, develop new hobbies, which everybody was doing during COVID, like becoming,
bread.
I don't know, gardening, and I was studying birds, and I was like, this is fun. And people were mountain biking. They were doing different things. They didn't need soccer in their life. So I was worried that it was going to take a while to come back. Well, spring of 2021, still in the belly of the beast. We're not out of it yet. We hit 119 teams, and I was like, whoa.
Wow.
That's when I said something's up. It's our biggest season yet. The vaccine hadn't come out yet, which for many people seemed to be the thing that they were going to wait for to come out and play. And that was a strong signal, and that is when it started moving, and it started moving fast, starting the spring of 2021. And it was the summer of 2021. I was living in Portugal at the time. So New York lost its shit during COVID.
Yeah, I remember.
People ever, if you excuse my French, it went from a city that never judged, that was like, you're you do you, gritty. If I can make it in New York, I can make it anywhere. It went from that to something the exact opposite. People hating you for your decisions, judging you on the street, everybody living in fear. New York was not a fearful city. Nobody was scared. Everybody was scared. That's the most unbecoming trait of a human being, is fear. And everybody was scared. And when someone's scared, that's when they become bad friends. They go into survival mode, and that's when humans are at their worst. And I was like, I got to get out of the city. This city that I love. I got to leave here. And so my wife, my daughter, and I, we moved, and we moved to Brazil for 3 months. We moved to Portugal for 3 months. It was in Brazil was when the first things started moving. I was like, what's going on? We moved to Portugal for that summer, and that was the hardest bit because I was on Portugal time, but I was waking up 8 a.m. or I was getting to work at 8 a.m. in Portugal, and I was going to bed at 9 p.m. And I was going to bed at 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
I was just on this loop because the growth was out of control during that period. And that was the period where my partner, came online and be like, all right, I'm joining you full time. Because I said, look, this is a shit or get off the pot moment. I had hired this wonderful woman named Grace who jumped in to really help me. It was just the two of us trying to keep this thing from falling apart. Because a business that's this complex, there's all these last mile point of failures. Like, does a ref show up? Is the field double booked? Is the equipment at the field? Did the ref bring the balls? Is a team forfeiting? How do you manage customer service? How are you getting the schedules up? The demand was through the roof. And I had that brain of, don't turn anybody away. This is like, don't ever turn anybody away. We are here to make soccer happen for people. We damn well better do it. So finding fields everywhere, applying to permits like crazy, getting permits. We went from a place where we weren't really using all of our permits to a place where we had nowhere nearly enough permits. But then with all that, trying to find someone to help make sure we get refs at all these fields, make sure we get goals at all these fields. It was pure insanity. And I had to go see heart doctors in Portugal because I was having serious arrhythmia issues. I couldn't sleep. I was having droning noises in my ear. And it was all because I was afraid it was going to implode. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to manage this. And I was my own making. I wanted to make soccer available for people, but I didn't fully appreciate that with that growth came 300 customer service emails a day.
Oh, wow.
The customer service software, the company saw they looked at the inbounds and they said, you all should be on an enterprise plan. How have you been doing this? And I was like, I was managing it all by myself, morning to night, trying to just answer everybody's questions. And it was really, really, really difficult. But G is like, I'm in full time. Let's get this thing rocking. We had Grace humming. We had a couple part-timers convert to full-time, all in that summer of 2022. I'm sorry, summer 2021 period. Yeah. And so it was like 119, and then it was like 175, and then it was 212 teams. Then back the next spring, it was 385, and then it just kept boom, boom, boom. And this past summer, we were over 600 teams. It's like over 5x growth since that big season in 2021, and it's still on this growth trajectory. But we have since really, I've learned so much. This is the hardest. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started a few businesses before, far and away the most complex business I've ever had to deal with. It's so hard. It really is. But we figured it out. We figured out how to set up certain departments, hire into those departments, create ownership in those departments. The field operations department, your job is to make sure that equipment's always there. Everybody gets their jerseys on time. No issues. Customer service, obviously, own it, man it, make sure everyone gets a response within 24 hours. League operations, make sure we're applying for permits, make sure we understand if there's any blackout dates, run the schedules and make sure they're running in a way that there's no double bookings and all that. Referee operations, like training, development, improvement. Oh, sorry, my nephew's calling.
Oh, good. Tell him we say hey.
Development, just bring him on the call. Training, development, improvement, all that for referee. And when people started owning those departments, holy cow, like everything started calming down. Processes were going into place. We went from a place where everybody was getting their jerseys like in week 3 or week 4. Refs weren't showing up. Refs didn't give a shit. I was like, this is a bad place. We're in a bad place. We got to work out of that. There's so many people that have joined the league recently that have no idea how much we've improved. Mm-hmm. They'll never know. That's okay.
That's good. Yeah,
that's
right.
good.
But you'll always have those OGs too. You'll always have the OGs that have played with you from the beginning. And they're like, dude, do you remember when?
Had, like, amazing experience and then this not so great experience, and then it's working its way back up again. And we've just had so many people that, by the way, that have just raised their hand and said, can I help? We got this wonderful guy, Morgan. He's like, can I help build an app that'll just make your lives easier for the referees to like log scores there instead of having to put it on a piece of paper and then texting it to one point of person, and then scores were taking like 2 weeks to get uploaded. There's all these things that we fixed through the improvement of our own process. Or like I said, some people raising their hand and loving the community so much that if they can just contribute in any way, it's going to make them feel great. So, hey, I built that app for footy. That probably makes Morgan feel pretty great. And now he just built an app for our captains, so captains can log after a game. Was the referee late? Did your opponent show good sportsmanship? Getting some of the feedback from teams that if they have a bad experience, they just don't tell you. They're like, fuck it. It's my rec league. It's, something stupid happened, but it's not worth me taking more time out of something that already wasn't a good experience to email. Well, now it's like the app just pulls up and it says quickly leave a review for the game. So we know we're now going to start getting more real-time feedback from people. And that means inherently improvement, because now we're going to be able to have our eyes and ears way closer to the ground and see what's happening. So I just went on a massive diatribe.
No, it was awesome though. That was great. Like, legitimately, that was so cool to kind of see how you were able to do this. Now, let's go back to Brazil and Portugal for a second. If you saw in Brazil that it was gonna start getting really big, was your first thought, hey, let's go 6 hours outside of the time zone, or was it already kind of set in place that you were going to Portugal?
It was already set.
Okay, I was gonna say, because you probably could have made a better decision there, but if it was already set, it was already set.
Here's an interesting thing. It's obviously a very on-the-ground business.
Yes.
But it's not an on-the-ground job for me. I spend an extraordinarily unhealthy amount of time behind the screen. And so I knew that I wasn't required to be on the ground to maybe make sure the ship didn't sink. But I had to be in the control room and be as effective as humanly possible in that control room to make sure it didn't fall apart. Because if I was on the ground, I would have been one person helping one field at one time.
Exactly. Yep.
I needed to be able to make sure we were on multiple fields helping at multiple times, which means I needed to have points of contact that could really execute in their role. And, we had people that were critical to the business for 10 years in part-time capacities, right? Like our person that oversaw the referees as an example, that just couldn't bend to the growth needs. It was like when it was your own small little ecosystem, no problem. But when the demands required far more, that was difficult. And that's when we knew, okay, we're going to have to bring more people on the team and figure out how to make this work. And now that we've come this far, the most exciting thing for me now in a state of far more mental calm is I really love the big challenges. Like, how do we make sure that we have enough women for every free agent team? It's a fucking nightmare for us every season. Well, now that we have time to think about it, I know we're going to solve this problem. It's a big, complex problem. It's not straightforward. It's not just marketing. It might mean structuring your leagues differently. It really might. It might mean coming up with completely different pricing models for women versus men. We don't know. But that's exciting the crap out of me, because if we do figure that out, that's one more serious competitive advantage to other leagues that are going to have to figure that out on their own, and there was a time where I was like, there's no way we'll be able to bring this business out of New York. Because how do you do it? How could I possibly spin up a league in a different city? How do we even get a referee? How do we even coordinate with the referee? How do we make sure the jerseys get there? My brain couldn't even compute. I was like, never going to happen. Well, now that we've built this team and these different departments and we're process oriented, now the thought of spinning up in a new market we are in the middle of it right now, because now we're confident we can pull it off.
Well, can you tell us the market?
Miami.
Oh, that's a fun one too. I thought you were going to say like Philly, because it's like right down the road. No. Let's stop screwing around. Let's go to Miami.
We looked at a few. We did launch in New Jersey. I shouldn't pass on that. We launched in New Jersey for the very first time this season, so that was great. And I shouldn't just assume Miami's going to happen, but we have broken ground and the effort to expand to Miami. And that there's probably people in Miami now being like, good luck, dude. There's things about Miami you just don't know. And that's definitely going to be the case. And so we'll see. I hope we can do something in Miami. We did a study, and Miami was one of the top markets that popped up as having a similar demographic to the ones that are currently in our community. Similar disposable income, culturally rich, all that, soccer obsessed.
Yes, I think the soccer part's pretty important too. Yeah,
that's probably pretty important. And what Miami is different, of course, is how you get from point A to point B in Miami is very different than how you get to point A and point B in New York, and that's important with a soccer league. So we'll see, but yeah, Miami Footy.
It's got a South Beach Footy, maybe.
There's a South Beach team, but we well, I guess we'll have to try to see if we're going to end up in South Beach. We're going to end up somewhere.
Leave it to the marketing people. They'll figure that out.
All we want is the one field and the 5 teams just to get started.
Gotta start.
That's the way NYC Footy started. It's like one field. Once we do that, I feel good about our chances.
I want to say it is obviously very cool that if people are volunteering their time to build apps, that means you did something right. Yeah, like definitely. Creating community, I think when it doesn't matter the business, it doesn't matter the industry, like creating a community around any type of business. Now, obviously your business lends itself a little bit more to a community, but there are people that fall in love, right? Apple people, to each his own. Yeah. That they feel like they're a community. I'm not a part of that community. It's okay. They feel like they're a part of that community, and that means something to them, right? And that's always inherent. And seeing how you guys are able to bring people together around soccer, around some other things, soccer being like kind of the center of gravity there. And thank you, Hook. There you go. You're pretty. You should have a podcast. You be able to actually do that with people, I think, is so cool. And then seeing how much that it meant to them, to the point where they're like, "Can I do this? Can I help here?" Like, how cool is was that like one of those? And maybe it wasn't Morgan. I think that was the gentleman's name. But like
Morgan built the app, yeah. But Grace, first hire, that's what she did. She texted me and said, "You look like you could use some help. Do you need some help?
Yes.
Can I volunteer some time? Can I help you with this tournament? That looks like." I want to save that email. I probably want to cry just thinking about it now, because that was what the email was. Do you look like you could use some help? And I was like, I could use some help. I really could. And Grace stepped up, and she just played a really, really critical role when I needed it the most, to just have someone there to help to help me keep things afloat. And she's a fog of war type person, when things are all over the place. I think she's clear-headed and helps with things. And at that period in time, yeah, she was pretty critical.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, because
And
when you
we've had
see
multiple
that,
people. Yeah, we have that we do have quite a few emails. It's like, can I help? Is there anything I can do to help? Now we get them less and less because people know it's a business now. They
yeah,
now know it's a
yep.
business, so they don't do it as much. But earlier on, when it was, obviously just a league that was growing fast, and there was, just a couple people trying to keep it all together, we got quite a few emails of people saying, "How can I help? What can I do to step in and make your life a little easier?"
That just shows you how much they loved it, though, right? They would do anything to make sure they will lend their time. Not only are they paying to be in this league, they will then lend their time to make sure that this league continues, not just for themselves, but obviously for the league itself and the people around them. And
Absolutely, yeah,
that's so cool,
yeah.
man. So kudos to you
Grace
guys.
refers to it as church.
Yeah, no, people need that, man. I
Yeah,
get that. That's
yeah.
awesome. And
She
so
refers to it as church. Yeah.
going back to Miami, I do want we're obviously in a couple days here. We're recording this on the 29th. I'm hoping that this will then I mean, I kind of control this shit. So this should be out by May 30th. We then on the 1st and 2nd have the Governor's Cup tournament, which we will get to, but you brought up Miami and that was actually going to be my last question in talking about the business side of this. There's so much more, like right in the beginning, it was that one field and 5 teams, and you can kind of see costs. And as you said, like costs, expenses equaled revenue. And so that you got zero profit, and that was totally fine. Now that you have like an enterprise up in New York, the costs of everything in Miami aren't going to be the same. Not just saying because it's in a different city, in a different state, doing different things. Everything is then factored in, right? Because these people all have to take their time to make sure that everything happens in Miami and in New York. So you have to hire more people. How are you guys looking at it from that perspective, where it's not just simply like, hey, we got like 2 people down in Miami trying to do this thing again? It's like, no, now you're trying to expand. Like the costs aren't going to equal it. Like, how, you know what I mean? It's a terrible way of asking the question, but I think it kind of makes sense. Like, how are you guys looking at
We're
Miami?
actually struggling with that. So that's one of the challenges is how do we, because Miami Footy it's a separate business, totally separate business. So separate ownership structure, separate everything. But we want to be able to use our team here to help it. So what does that look like? How do we build a
Yeah.
structure that basically ensures that NYC Footy is being compensated for the effort that the staff might be putting into some areas of the country that are growing? How do we incentivize local people to have a meaningful stake in the business? That's why we want them to all be separate ownership structures, so someone can have ownership in Miami Footy or in Oakland Footy or wherever else we might be. We want people to be on the ground and say, oh yeah, I have a little ownership in this, and that's part of the reason that we structure it that way. I think what we do when we launch new initiatives is we are very much like what's the word I'm trying to look for? This is where you're going to say I shouldn't have a podcast.
Well, that's what I'm here for, buddy. I got you.
We, I try to when we do new initiatives, I try to do it in a vacuum by myself. I don't want the team to get involved at all yet. So we have like a little footy kids program. Nobody gets involved in it. It's an experiment for me. And if it grows into something more than an experiment, then I will bring the team in because now I know it's worth that team's time to focus on it. It was the same when I launched the Governor's Cup for the first time at Footy Fest. It was like, look, I'm not going to, because Footy Fest, I had me and my co-founders, but a lot of it was like, look, I'm going to just do most of it in this vacuum because it's something I really want to do, but I know it's more work for you all. So let me just do it in a vacuum. And then if it becomes something that is meaningful, then you'll be brought in and we'll do something more. That's this Paloma. We created a brand called Paloma. It was the same thing. It was like a little isolated project. I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to create a separate brand so that we can design our own jerseys. And then if it gets, if it looks like the experiment makes sense, then, then people get involved with it. And Miami's going to be the same, except this time it's my co-founder and I, we are together working with someone in Miami. And this is going to be a completely isolated effort until it's not. It's how far can we get? What can we learn about the permitting process? What can we learn about the demographics? What can we learn about the price point we have to hit? What can we learn about all those things? Can we get the permit? Let's get the permit. We've got the permit. Let's start promoting it. Let's run ads there. We've got it. There's a team. Looks like we've got 5 teams. Good. Hey, broader team, we now need to make sure that this league receives the same treatment that they do in New York. And now we are working towards, as a business, we now have multiple cities. And that's the way that, I don't know if that's the right way to do it, by the way.
I think that's a really cool way to do it, though, because it would be so easy to be like, all right, team, let's go. Like, I'll still like manage from up top in the control room, but like, this is your new, like, I think it's such an interesting way to do it. Cause I think that is like kind of the impetus of the question I was asking. Like, it's so easy to just say, let's do Miami, but like the costs aren't the exact same thing. Like you're using up time. New York's your cash cow. Okay, well, how long do we let Miami lose money before it's like maybe this wasn't worth it? It sounds like you're
Yeah.
going at it from the point of we're gonna get it as far as we
On area.
can. Yeah,
Yeah.
as lean as possible. And then from there, once we see that it's sustainable, once we see that there is the opportunity to actually help grow the company, not
That's right.
just like grow my ego a little bit, this kind of makes sense. And then let's, then we can start introducing other people and hey, maybe you hire more people down there. Maybe it's, you do it from there. But I think that's a really cool way of doing it because I don't think most people would. I think most people will go the complete opposite where it's just like, we want to do Miami. We did the research. That means it's going to work. We're going to pour money into it for 4 or 5 years to make sure that it works. And it's like, I don't know if that like makes sense from that perspective though. Cause as you
Yeah.
said, like culturally, they're pretty different. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, of course,
It
but
is different.
culturally it's very different. They might just be like, who the hell are these guys? Screw off. We have our own league. Why are you trying to ruin our
Maybe
league
they
that
just
we've
want,
had?
maybe it's like a city that doesn't want organized leagues. Yeah, maybe they just
Yeah.
want pickup. Maybe the drop in style is way more culturally aligned than showing up every week on time at the same time.
Yeah.
We might find out that is just not the Miami vibe at
Yeah,
all.
I think people are always late in Miami. I think I've never been, but like that's kind of like on the
Exactly.
internet. That's like, no, you don't show up to the club till 2:30. It's like, dude, I've been
It could
asleep
be
for
one of
4
those cities.
hours.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I think there's especially if we were venture backed, then I think we could barnstorm cities and do it the old fashioned way. But we're not, and I do think the trial and error is the signal strong enough before we involve others is probably a good strategy. Hopefully
Question
it is.
mark?
Question mark. I don't know
think
because
it's a good strategy.
it's also a slower strategy.
Yeah, that's fine.
And someone else could be like, "Ooh, Miami's a big market. Like, hey, I'm going to go raise $1 million and I'm going to run a ton of ads and I'm going to start a league and I'm going to go after it." And and we might live to regret going at it in a slow way. And I'm aware of all that. And I just the best thing about being an entrepreneur, with a decent amount of self awareness, is just how much you learn along the way. And if you take a couple blows on the chin, you know that those don't have to be debilitating. If you take a blow on the chin, it could be a really useful blow for the learning process, to help you be better.
I think this will allow you to be more authentic too, right? If you start small and slow and actually talk to and understand and learn about the people that are going to be in this league, like the few people, the first adopters, and actually learn and understand, that's probably going to allow you to be more authentic. Maybe it's like, hey, we don't run games at 8. We legitimately run games at 11:30 at night because that's when people want to play soccer here. And that's cool. And instead of, as you said, instead of throwing $1 million and saying, this is how we've done it in New York, so let's do it again. Like, maybe you find out in that first season it doesn't go perfect, but you found out so much that way the next season you're like, okay, couple tweaks here. These are a couple of the things that we're going to do a little different, right? So I think like that's a really cool opportunity too, to allow you guys to learn.
And I hope we do learn that it's a totally different vibe.
It'll be way cooler.
Yeah. I hope we find out it's a totally different vibe. My daughter just brought in my charger because my computer is done. Thank you, honey.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll learn that it would be just really cool. And then if it is a totally different culture, that opens up the opportunity. Sorry for anyone watching how ridiculous this looks. I hope cool. We new house, new outlets. I don't know where they are.
Amen.
So to do these intercity tournaments. So one of the ideas that Gerardo had, Colin G, is, let's do a winter tournament in Miami for New Yorkers. I was like, that's a great idea. I mean, that's just a great idea. Let's do it. Let's do a tournament in Miami. We sort of announce ourselves a bit. People in New York come down. It's MIA Footy is how we're going to go with it, just to keep with the acronym. Mm-hmm. We'll see if that's smart either. But and yeah, that's the plan.
That's awesome, man.
If I chat with you this time next year, we'll know if there was some success, and and if it turned out it didn't work, I have a decent track record of turning those learnings into something that'll go somewhere, at least within this industry, and not so much in my tech days. I wasn't learning things nearly as fast or as helpful as I thought I should in hindsight. But our ultimate goal, just to carry on this topic, is we do want to be in 5 total of at least 5 markets by the time the World Cup hits. So we got less than 2 years to get there, but I think
I was going to say 26, right? Because 28 is the Olympics. So yeah, you got all right. Yeah. Good luck, man.
2 years. Yeah, I think we can do it. I do.
Yeah. Good luck. I love it.
Thanks,
And
man.
so I think one cool thing that you guys do now we can get to the Governor's Cup again. It's coming up here in a couple of days, so I do got to make
Yeah.
sure we talk about this a little bit. It's June 1st. It's June 2nd. 100 teams, 1,200 players. As you said, you kind of went into like the beginning a little bit. You were just on Governor's Island, been to Governor's Ball, I think the festival. I don't think it's still there
They moved
anymore.
it. They moved it to.
Yeah.
They moved it to Randall's Island, and now I think it's out in like Flushing now, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's really not even Governor's
No,
Ball
I am
anymore.
going to it this year. I don't even
Nice.
know where it's at.
You could look that up 2 days before. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But no, like it's such a beautiful plot of land, like the opportunity there. And you kind of saw and you're like, hey, I think this would be really cool. Going from, hey, I think this would be really cool to having this type of event, again, 1,200 people, that's huge, man. And so it seems like you guys go pretty quick. First year is a little bit of learning, second year is let's go. And so
Yeah.
I guess, was that kind of similar to what you saw with the league itself? It's like, hey, let's dabble, let's see what happens. And okay, cool. These are all the things we learned. Now let's put all of this into overdrive and just go with it. Like, I guess, what is this tournament? Do you have to win your league to be in this tournament? Because like, I guess, like, just how does it work?
No, you don't have to win a league. We treat our tournaments completely isolated from our leagues. We do an upstate tournament in Footy Fest, which is a little bit more of an invitational, but you can still participate if you're not part of the league. But we try to keep it more part of the culture, because these are people driving 3 hours upstate, camping with each other. The vibes have got to be strong, and so you really want the community that understands the culture, the vibe of footy, to be there for that. We do want that for Gov Cup too, but because of the size and scale of it, you learn pretty quick if you're an outlier to the culture. So most teams are footy teams and players. A few teams fly in from different cities and towns, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
And others, they don't play in any leagues. They just come together for the tournaments. And one of my favorite teams, maybe my favorite team, West Glover, West Glover. They're like high school buddies, but they sync up for the Gov Cup and the Footy Fest. That's where they get together, and it's just a beautiful thing. And yeah, so it's grown a lot. It is a capacity event. It does occur to me that, if we're going to grow it, we have to move off of Governor's Island, and I don't know if we want to do that. We don't know. We might just always keep it at this amount, and we'll have to start a new tournament somewhere else. But because it sells out so quick. But it's anyone can come. There's 5 different divisions every day. So we have a separate tournament Saturday and Sunday. 5 divisions. Can you hear that thunder?
Yeah, that's pretty loud. That's loud thunder. No, you're good, man. Ambiance, new house, new windows. We don't know how they work yet.
A little better now. I didn't realize how loud that was. It's so funny. So it's 50 teams a day, 100 in total. It's 5 divisions: advanced, intermediate, beginner, intermediate, beginner. It's that sort of setup. Not exactly that, but basically, and 10 teams in each division. So there's 10 total there's 10 total winners, 5 each day, 5 Saturday, 5 Sunday. Each team wins in its respective division. And that's the setup. And it's 1,200 players, and then however many people maybe they bring, friends and family. It's a great hang. I mean, Governor's Island's got a lot to do. So if you've got family, just come out. Even if you're not playing in the tournament, you can come out, you watch it. You can go on bike rides on the island. You can go look at the old Army barracks. There's a beautiful playground. They've got a farm, I think, there. They've got a spa, beautiful restaurants. They've got a beer garden. There's a lot to do. So even if you're not playing, it's a really good time. And so we anticipate there'll be quite a bit. It also is the Champions League final that Saturday. So we bought these 4 75-inch TVs. We're stringing them all together, and we're going to have them in our beer garden so that people can kind of hang out, mosey about, but also catch the final during the tournament.
That's going to be so sweet. Yeah, well, we got Dortmund and Real Madrid this year, right?
God, everyone's rooting for Dortmund, surely.
I'm pretty confident everyone is. The odds, being a betting man, might put a couple dollars on Dortmund just because, I don't think they'll win.
On Dortmund, yeah, but Real Madrid's just got too good of a free. And I'm a Liverpool fan. I've seen, unfortunately,
they just know, man. They're just too damn good. I just think it's such like a cool concept, right? As you said, like, and again, going back to like that community aspect and hearing about that team that they come together for your 2 tournaments every year. Like, again, that's just got to feel so cool. Like, yeah, there's the teams that are always with you and they're always doing their thing, but then you have those little stories like that is just like, okay, cool. Like this is impacting more than the people that I see on a daily basis, right? This is, forest through the trees kind of shit where it's like, wait, there are people that, I have no idea who they are, what they're doing, but they love these events. And I'm so grateful that we get to put them on, and then they get to come and experience it. And I'll never see them. I'll never meet them, right? You know about this one team, but I'm sure there's many others that you've never heard of, or maybe, just passing by. And then that's really, again, that's creating a real community, which I think is pretty awesome. And
this
man,
community shows gratitude too, which is the best feeling ever. I mean, they'll come up to you after the tournament, and they make a point to come up to the team after the tournament and let us know how they feel about it and how it's made them feel. And we've had numerous people, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, numerous people say the Governor's Cup is one of the Governor's Cups, let's just say, is one of the best days of their life.
That's awesome.
Numerous people have told us that, like one of the best days of their life. It's like, and I've asked people, what is it about Governor's Cup? Why does it sell out in 3 days in January? It's not even until June. What? To me, I'm organizing a tournament. It's fun. It's on real grass, which is cool. It's usually a nice day out. We've got some sponsors. We don't even do the craziest sponsor activations that I think that the tournament warrants, if I'm being honest. But what is it? And people just say it's everything that you would ever want bottled up in one day. You're with your friends. The weather's typically nice. You're playing a sport you love. You're getting great physical, a good long physical day of activity, which everybody knows. Even if you're just in your yard all day, you feel great at the end of the day. If you are shoveling snow all day, you feel great at the end of a day of that. Your endorphins are high. You're just feeling like you accomplished so much. Well, playing like 6 hours of soccer gives you that same feeling. Plus the mental release, if you're stressed out going into that tournament, the mental wellness, as they say, mental fitness that comes with that, it's a modern term, I guess they're using. And then afterwards, you're having drinks with your friends, and you extend the day, and you just worked out. You're physically exhausted, but now you're just relaxed, having beers and talking about the tournament. And it's just this great day and this great feeling. And for whatever, if those listening, it probably makes sense. People are like, this is just one of the best days I've ever had, start to finish. And there's a team that I formed. In my old age, I've been recruiting some young kids.
Very smart.
And one person's flying, one person's delaying their international trip, waiting for the Gov Cup. Another person who has an internship in Michigan is going to her internship for a week to fly back to play in the Gov Cup, then to fly back to her internship. And this is just my team. I don't know what other people are doing, but that's how much this tournament means to people, to be there in that environment at that time. It's that fun of a day. And for those listening, I hope that you have an opportunity to join and participate one day, because it does sell out lightning quick. And that's where we have to think, if we're bottling this up so successfully, the biggest shame is that more people can't experience it. And that goes back to my initial thing, like, we're here to make soccer available to people that want to play it, and that's now tricky.
I would push back on that, though, because it's not going to be the same. If you double the size of this thing, it's not going to be the same thing. Right? Like, yes, you're still, a lot of the things that you did describe are still possible for some people, but it almost sounds like it is like that weird, perfect, like, I don't believe in perfect, right? But it's that perfect number of people. It's that perfect day. It's that like perfect time of year. And like, if you go a little too more, it'll just be too many people, and it won't be as comfortable, right? It's not going to be on Governor's Island, so there's not going to be all the things for my family to do when I'm there. Yeah, maybe it's somewhere else that they can do it, but it's not quite the same. My mom really loved, right? So it's like, I totally see where you're coming from. And again, kind of this whole hour-long conversation, you brought it up multiple times. You want to make sure as many people have access to soccer as possible. But at the same time, I believe, like, if you just made this bigger, like everything you're describing, I've been to multiple music festivals, and I went to them when they were a really nice size. And then I went 1 year too long when it got way too big, and it sucked. And it's not because the music was bad, and it's not because I didn't want more people to enjoy it. There's just, once there's too many people, man, there's just too many people. And as you said, once people go into survival
culture gets
mode,
eroded. That
exactly,
vibe, those vibes gets diluted. There's no question. Absolutely. Yeah. And that is something to think about. I don't want to host this thing on Randall's Island. I just don't. It starts, Governor's Island starts by getting on a ferry.
That's cool.
A great way to start anything. It's like I'm getting on a boat, and then you get off on this island, and then you know that you're not leaving the island until you've finished a long day of soccer. And that's
you can't leave the island.
You can't leave it.
But like in a positive way.
Yeah, unless you get injured, which is a negative way. So
positive vibes. But no, man, I think it's awesome. And you even brought up the point, like, you could do even more with sponsorship. I mean, I don't know the financials, but like, it almost sounds like you shouldn't, right? keep it the way it is, because I'm sure you can make a couple more dollars and everyone can make a couple more dollars. But again, if there's too much sponsorship, then people are like, oh no, it's got fucking corporate, right?
No,
Like
there's
it's
a
so
right
it's like
number of sponsors. We're not
exactly.
there yet, I promise. Because
Okay, I believe you, but
there's an amount of sponsors where all the sponsors are relevant, and they're all activating in a way that enhances the player experience.
yes,
There is a point where now you just have too many sponsors and you sponsor too much shit, and the player experience isn't being enhanced by it. We just haven't even gotten to that first step yet, really, genuinely. And I think that's what I'm really excited for, is how can we get sponsors to come in here and activate in a way that enhances that experience even more, even better.
love it.
You know, or give us money to enhance it for the players. Like, give us the money so that we can hire, you know, men in blazers to come and commentate on the finals or something, and just give people like a totally cool experience.
That'd be pretty cool.
I'd love to do, or give us some money so we can invite some, you know, some celebrities, you know, people, ex-soccer players to come in and just do some fun stuff with the players and give them a unique experience that they might not otherwise have. I have bigger dreams for everything that we do, but it is a special day. And hey, if you can make it out, dude, you know, come out.
Well,
Seriously.
I have to wait till next January to get my tickets for 2025, but I'll make sure to put it on my calendar. How's that sound?
Definitely as a player, but it is a fun event to just come and chill and watch and enjoy. It really is. It's a fun day.
I love it, man. Tarek, this has been fantastic. I appreciate the insight into the business, into your mind a little bit. It's always fun with these conversations to remember like 2020 and 2021 a little bit, and like how
That's
ridiculous it was. Like
Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
grateful that obviously we don't do that anymore, and we've all kind of, as you said, like New York City got real weird there for a while. I think it's coming out of it, so I'm not too worried about it
Coming out of
anymore.
it, yeah, it is.
But like it's weird to remember. It's like, oh shit, you're right. It was a really weird place for a minute. Now we're
It was
cool
awful.
again. But it's nice to remember that we lived through it, because if we could live through that, I'm confident we could live through pretty much just anything at this point. So
Yeah, I
I
agree.
appreciate it.
I agree. And I think it is good on your journey with, you know, the work you do and the very interesting people I'm sure you meet. You know, that year was really strange
It was
and
wild.
very interesting for people. And I imagine it destroyed my other business. That's
I
the other
believe it.
reality, is my tech company got crushed by COVID whilst totally taking the soccer league in the other direction. It was a really weird moment for me. And
That's the universe.
I started both businesses at the same time, and one was like boom, and the other one went like that. So.
There you go. So note to everybody, start two businesses that have nothing to do with each other at the same time. No, man, this has been awesome. Where can we learn a little bit more about the league? Where can we learn more if people want to join for whatever upcoming leagues we got? Give us some websites, some socials, anything like that.
Yeah, NYCFooty.com. That'll direct you to most of the places, tournaments, things that we do there. We've got a really wonderful charity that we support in partnership with called South Bronx United. We do a charity cup with them in August up in the Bronx by Yankee Stadium. So that's one coming up. We've got another tournament called the Cup of Dreams coming up in New Jersey at the American Dream Mall. We're taking over the ice rink and turning it into a street tournament. That's going to happen on July 27th. So those are some really fun upcoming events. Both those you can find at NYCFooty.com if you're in New Jersey. NJFooty.com is where our Jersey leagues are. Jersey League, only one.
We'll get
for
there.
now. We'll
Jersey's
get there.
big. A lot of people here. You'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely. But if you just want to follow us in a visually stimulating way and just see what we're up to, and with just great video, some fun, humorous commentary, NYC Footy Official on Instagram. We put a lot of effort into that. We have a studio, Footy Studios, in our business, and we're just churning out content constantly. And we do some real fun video work with our sponsors, and you know, just trying to be a voice in the soccer culture beyond the leagues that we run. And you can find a lot of what we're doing there on Instagram.
I love it, man. That's awesome. I'll put those in the show notes for everyone. I mean, if there's not a time, World Cup's coming here. We got Messi. Like, come on, man. This is the perfect time. Capitalize on everything you guys got going on. Oh, duh. Yeah. That's why you're going to Miami, because Messi's there. Duh.
Big part of it.
How did I not figure that out?
The soccer brain has moved southeast in this country, and to be around the soccer brain is really important for us. Absolutely.
I love it, man. Awesome. This has been fantastic. One more time. Tarek Pertew. I think I got that right.
Nailed it.
Okay, it's been an hour. Usually after an hour, I forget how to say people's names.
You hung on to it, yeah.
Thank you. I kept saying it to myself throughout the interview a little bit, but no. Co-founder at NYC Footy, man, this is absolutely fantastic. I appreciate it. Time's the only thing we don't get more of, so I appreciate you giving me some of yours and the audience giving us some of theirs. But other than that, hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
You're great, Michael. Thank you so much. Good luck. Take care of everything.